Hey everyone, and welcome to Boston Autoblog. You guys have really enjoyed my comparison videos here at Subaru of Wakefield, as we checked out the Subaru Crosstrek versus the Impreza hatchback and the Forester versus the Outback. Today we have the Crosstrek Limited versus the Forester Sport. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably saying, well, this isn't really that fair of a comparison because we got a subcompact crossover and a compact crossover, where the Forester is going to be able to fit 5 people and the Crosstrek will only fit 4 people. However, when it comes to pricing, they're almost identical. Now, both models we have today have all the optional packages. And when you look at the final pricing, it's around $900 difference. So it's a very fair comparison in that respect. Adding to the fairness of this comparison, the Subaru Crosstrek is one of the best-selling vehicles in its segment. A lot has to do with the fact that it has the same ground clearance as all the other crossovers in the Subaru lineup. So you have 8.7 inches of ground clearance matching the Subaru Forester. So you get that year-round versatility, particularly for consumers up here in the north and colder regions of the United States. Also, because it's very hatchback-like, you get that practicality aspect, which people certainly love, especially in this price range. Now, if we're going to base this on the 2021 model year, though, there's a few upgrades and a few incentives that might make owning the Crosstrek more appealing than the Subaru Forester. However, you might be a consumer that's on the fence, debating whether to go with the Crosstrek over the Forester. And in some cases, I would agree. Going with the Crosstrek makes more sense, especially if you don't need the extra cargo room or the extra room for 3 passengers in the back. Also, if you're comparing a Crosstrek Limited to a Forester Premium, the Premium is going to have less features than the Crosstrek, and those are features that you're most certainly going to miss. So that's why I did want to introduce the Sport trim, because the Sport trim is going to have those features that you're definitely going to like. So in this video, we're going to check out the Crosstrek Limited and the Forester Sport. Check out the similarities and differences, see which one might be the perfect option for you, and also see why, if you do prefer going with the Crosstrek, it might be better to wait for the 2021 model year. Now, before we get in this video, I'd like to thank Subaru of Wakefield in Wakefield, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this comparison video. Their link will be in the description below so you can check out their extensive Subaru inventory. I'm also very excited to finally announce that the showroom is once again open. Of course, you can still buy your vehicles online. You can still go through the non-contact buying experience, and all that information will be in the Subaru of Wakefield website. Also, with it being July, the 4th of July sales event does continue on throughout the entire month. So this is the perfect time to buy a new Subaru. And so, with all that being said, let's check out the Subaru Crosstrek and the Subaru Forester. In the new car market, the mid-$20,000 to $30,000 price range signifies a crossroad in the automotive industry, where you can choose between a well-equipped subcompact crossover or sacrifice some features for a larger cabin and more cargo room by going with a compact crossover. With Subaru, you actually have 3 options if you include the Outback. However, unlike all the competition, the crossover lineup for this Japanese manufacturer all share the same thing in common: ground clearance and year-round versatility. What actually makes this matchup intriguing is the fact that the Crosstrek in its own right is a multi-purpose vehicle that doesn't rely solely on being an urban grocery getter like most rival brands have in this segment, but rather it offers off-road capability and versatility like its bigger siblings. Due to its hatchback-like design, the Crosstrek provides more practicality than most of its competition, and if you're a consumer who rarely uses the back seats and occasionally has passengers riding along with you, then this subcompact crossover actually makes a serious case for itself to be the next vehicle in your driveway. However, when you start contemplating whether you should upgrade to a Forester Sport, now you have to weigh the minor features you lose and what you gain by going with a bigger crossover. Starting off with dimensions, the Forester comes in at about 7 inches longer, a half inch wider, and 4.5 inches higher than the Crosstrek, which will translate to more interior volume, slightly improved shoulder room, and better cargo capacity, which we'll check out later in this video. Despite the size discrepancy, what can't be emphasized enough is the identical 8.7 inches of ground clearance that is unrivaled and class-leading for both segments these vehicles are in. When it comes to the road presence, let's first focus on the Forester Sport, as its unique styling stands out among other trims like the Premium and Limited. The deletion of chrome for a blacked out grille and painted accents gives the Forester a low profile but also more aggressive appearance. Up front will be the standard LED headlights, but setting the Sport apart from the limited trim are LED fog lights for a modern look, while also offering improved illumination, especially if you plan on taking journeys outside the city. Next will be the red accents found throughout the exterior, that we often see with the Subaru WRX STI and the BRZ TS, differentiating the Sport from other Foresters on the road. Moving over to the side profile, exclusive for the Sport will be 18-inch aluminum alloy wheels with a black finish, which have become a personal favorite for this vehicle. You'll get body color folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators, and more importantly, you will have Subaru's EyeSight driver assistance technology for added safety every time you get behind the wheel. For the rear, not much changes compared to the standard Forester, but the overall boxy and traditional crossover look is going to provide benefits, not only in terms of practicality, but also with its shorter overhangs, you're actually looking at a more capable off-roader than the Crosstrek. Speaking of the Crosstrek, with this model being a limited, steering responsive LED headlights and LED fog lights come standard, which is a feature you will be paying a little extra for in the Forester lineup. If there's a distinct characteristic between the two, the Crosstrek takes on a lifted hatchback appearance, with plastic cladding accents up front and for the wheel arches, giving the subcompact crossover off-road appeal, while also retaining a semblance of being somewhat car-like. Due to its overall size, the Crosstrek fits an urban lifestyle, but strikes a nice balance where if you're looking to get away from the city and explore the country and mountains, you have that capability. While within the context of this comparison, the Forester size has the advantage, it's the versatility that makes the Crosstrek a very popular choice in its segment and price range, particularly for consumers who don't have more than 2 members in their family. Moving over to the side profile, the Limited will be sitting on 18-inch alloy wheels as well, which are an upgrade over the 17s found on lower trims. You'll get heated body color folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators. And of course, just like with the Forester, you will have Subaru's EyeSight driver assist technology. Under the hood for both the Crosstrek and Forester, there is a bit of a disparity when it comes to performance for the 2020 model year. The Crosstrek is powered by a 2-liter Boxer 4-cylinder engine that puts out 152 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque, and can be paired with either a manual transmission or CVT. The Forester, on the other hand, comes standard with a 2.5-liter Boxer 4-cylinder engine, which puts out 182 horsepower and 176 pound-feet of torque, and that is also mated with a CVT. Of course, Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system is standard, giving both models a competitive advantage in their segments, as most rivals offer all-wheel drive as an optional drivetrain. If fuel economy is a top priority, the Crosstrek and Forester have almost identical numbers for city and highway driving. So either way, you receive practicality whether you choose a subcompact or compact crossover. However, if you decide to wait a few more months before buying your next vehicle, the 2021 model year for the Crosstrek offers some upgrades that certainly makes this vehicle more enticing. Now, the first incentive to waiting a few extra months for the 2021 model year is the engine options that you have to choose from. Now, we already went over the fact that for 2020, you get the 2-liter Boxer 4-cylinder engine. However, in 2021, as an option, you can go with a 2.5-liter Boxer 4-cylinder engine that's also found in the Forester and the Outback, and with that, you get 182 horsepower in the Crosstrek, making the Crosstrek one of the more powerful options in its segment. So if you're looking for a subcompact crossover with some extra horsepower, then waiting a few months most certainly makes sense. Now, the second and last incentive to waiting for the 2021 model year for the Crosstrek would be the optional Startex water-resistant fabric that we found in the Subaru Outback Onyx Edition last year. It's very easy to clean, it's because it's water-resistant, but also it's more comfortable in my opinion. I like it more than leather. Even though it's not a leather material, it feels very comfortable. And if you have an active lifestyle, you have family, you have pets, you go to the mountains and you get dirt or snow inside, then you're going to want to go with that Startex water-resistant fabric, and that's one of the reasons why I would most certainly wait a few extra months for the 2021 model year. Inside for the Crosstrek Limited, you're greeted by heated leather seats for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side being power adjustable. Whereas for the Forester, you'll have two-tone cloth seats, which will also be heated. The driver's side will be 10-way power adjustable for added comfort. The rest of the interior is basically the same for both vehicles, as their instrument panel and dashboard layout are identical. You'll have a digital display in the center of the analog gauges, providing information such as fuel economy, tire pressure, and your digital speedometer. You're also given the ability to scroll through vehicle and general settings from this screen as well, which some of these settings can be accessed and customized on the touchscreen. More importantly, and specifically for the Forester, will be the multi-information display that sits above the infotainment system. Starting with the Sport trim, you will receive a more in-depth display that shows outside weather, radio data, and also your EyeSight driver assist technologies, where you can monitor which safety systems are on or off, giving you peace of mind every time you're behind the wheel. The more simplistic screen found in the premium trim for the Forester doesn't provide as much information, and that's one minor touch and feature you'll certainly miss. The same goes for the Crosstrek, as this 6.3-inch display adds a more modern feel, while also being more helpful with that additional information made available to you. The major difference pertaining to the infotainment system really comes down to the fact that the Crosstrek Limited will have onboard navigation as an option to go along with the standard 8-inch display, whereas the Forester Sport comes standard with a 6.5-inch display with the ability to upgrade to an 8-inch. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility do come standard for both screen sizes. You can also upgrade to the Harman Kardon Premium Audio System for both models, which are equipped on the vehicles we have today. In terms of safety, reverse automatic braking is standard for the Crosstrek Limited, but optional for the Forester Sport, so keep that in mind if you're on a tighter budget. A topic of discussion this summer is the addition of the dual function X mode with hill descent control for the 2021 Crosstrek Sport, which is also found in the Forester. All other trims for next year won't have this feature, and instead, you'll only have hill descent control. The Forester, due to its approach and departure angles, will be more off-road worthy, and this dual function X mode will certainly suit the off-road adventurer who plans on tackling a variety of terrain and road conditions. The last difference up front when comparing these two models will be the standard panoramic moonroof for the Forester Sport, while the Crosstrek Limited we have today is equipped with the optional power tilting and sliding moonroof. Now for rear legroom and headroom, more importantly, the Forester makes more sense because it's less claustrophobic in here. I have a lot more headroom because of a higher roofline, whereas the Crosstrek is really a lifted Impreza hatchback. Now when it comes to legroom, I have plenty of it. I'm sitting behind myself at 5'5", and I could just sit back and relax. Now of course, I'm not the tallest person out there, however, kids are going to be smaller than me, and they can grow with this vehicle over time. So if you plan on owning the Forester for a period of 3 to 5 years, this makes more sense. The Crosstrek, on the other hand, really fits a person who doesn't have a family. Maybe you're in the beginning stages of planning on having a family. The Crosstrek will most certainly be able to fit 1 or 2 kids. But the Forester, as a long-term buying decision, this makes more sense overall, just because it's more spacious inside. I think everyone in the family is going to be happy with the Forester. Whereas the Crosstrek, again, really meant for that urban family, maybe even for just that urban consumer that's living in the city, that's looking for practicality. The Crosstrek makes more sense for that person. Now for the center seat, I still have enough room for myself where I'm not squished at all. The middle hump is not very aggressive, so you can't fit a third person back here. And that's why I feel, compared to the Crosstrek and also the Outback, the Forester makes for the better buying decision overall. If we're going to compare all three together, the Forester makes more sense, and especially in this comparison, I'd prefer the Forester over the Crosstrek if I had 2 or maybe 3 people back here at all times. Now in the Subaru Crosstrek, it has the exact same rear legroom and interior space as the Subaru Impreza hatchback. And in my opinion, you're mostly going to have the rear seats folded down during your time of ownership rather than having people sit back here. Now, you can have people back here. I mean, I had the seat adjusted most of the way back, and I still have legroom to work with. Now, of course, I'm 5'5", so I'm not the tallest person out there. I think someone around 6 foot tall would not be very comfortable back here, but this is doable on shorter drives. Now, of course, you cannot fit a third person back here. I mean, you could try, but the middle hump is very aggressive. So for me, I would say that's a bit of an iffy situation. I think this is really meant for just four people overall and 2 people back here. And then on the driver's side, I'm sitting behind myself at 5'5", and I have a surprising amount of legroom to work with. I do think, again, for a vehicle of its size, you do get a decent amount of room. So I do think, though, if you have maybe one child, this could most certainly work, especially if you have if you're short like me. This could work. But I just think overall, though, at the end of the day, most likely you're going to have these rear seats folded down for extra cargo room rather than 4 people in the back. So keep that in mind. I think either way, if you're debating on which one to go with, the Crosstrek makes sense for that urban lifestyle. But if you do plan on having a family sometime soon, or you already have a family, then the Forester will most certainly make for a better buying decision overall at the end of the day. Now, for rear cargo space, you can expect to see right around 20.8 cubic feet of rear cargo room with the Crosstrek. But with the rear seats folded down, that space more than doubles in size to right around 55.3 cubic feet. So this vehicle is very practical, and also it does outcompete some vehicles in its segment. This is also very similar to a lot of hatchbacks on the market as well when it comes to dimensions. I personally think this is enough room for somebody who doesn't have a family, maybe for an urban lifestyle, especially where if you don't have a family or a roommate or a significant other or another family member. This is most certainly enough, especially for smaller items, groceries, and for me, if I have my camera gear with me, this would be more than enough. And then, of course, you do get a rear cargo cover, which keeps all your valuable items out of sight, so you have that extra peace of mind if you do leave your Crosstrek unattended for a short period of time. Now, moving on to the Forester Sport, and this is the reason why I chose this trim, we have the optional power liftgate, which makes loading up items a lot more convenient and also very easy. With the rear seats up, we get right around 31 cubic feet of rear cargo room. But with the rear seats folded down, that space more than doubles in size to 76 cubic feet. So this vehicle is significantly more practical than the Crosstrek. Also, even though the Forester isn't as large in terms of rear cargo room as the Outback, we established in the comparison video a few months ago that the Forester makes more sense for a family with a pet. Because of the higher roofline, we can now fit a dog back here, and he doesn't have to be cramped or squished as you would with the Outback and especially with the Crosstrek. But also, between the three, I'd prefer the Forester over the Outback or the Crosstrek just because of that higher roofline. You can fit taller items, taller boxes, and really can stack things up, whereas you just can't do that with the Outback or the Crosstrek. And then, of course, just like we saw with the Crosstrek, we do get a rear cargo cover, which keeps all your valuable items out of sight. Once again, if you do plan on leaving your vehicle unattended, say you're going hiking on the trails, maybe you're going shopping, like me when I have my camera gear and I'm a little bit concerned about leaving that stuff in my vehicle, you can make sure that people won't be able to peek in and steal what you have with the rear cargo cover. And then once you're done, you can either press the button on the liftgate itself, or there's a button on the left side of the steering wheel column which can open or close this liftgate, and you don't have to leave your vehicle at all. So if you're doing curbside pickup, that person can just load up your vehicle and you can be on your way without being in close contact with anybody. But since we're in this lot by ourselves, or by myself I should say, but you're along with me for this video, I'm just going to press the button and we'll have the liftgate close automatically. Now, in closing, for both vehicles, let's talk about the driving experience, but also what it feels like to be behind the wheel. Now, with the Crosstrek, it feels very similar to a car, and it makes sense because the Crosstrek is a lifted version of the Impreza hatchback, and you feel that when it comes to seating position. Now, I'm in a very comfortable seating position for myself, and it feels like a car. Even though I have 8.7 inches of ground clearance, and this is a crossover technically, it does feel like I'm in a car. So if you're looking for a car-like driving experience, then go with the Crosstrek. Also, more importantly, again, if you do wait for a few more months for that 2021 model year, you're going to get that Startex water-resistant fabric for the seats. And if you're more of an active person and you go out a lot more, you go to the mountains, you go hiking, you go snowboarding, or whatever you do, you're going to have that nicer interior, which cleans up a lot better. So for an active lifestyle, I would wait a few extra months. But if you're the type of person who just lives in an urban area, you're looking for something that's not too big, but you're also looking for something practical, then the Crosstrek is definitely a great option to go with. And then lastly, for the Forester Sport, if you're looking for a vehicle that provides a good amount of shoulder room, headroom, more cargo room, more interior room for passengers in the back, and also a crossover-like driving experience, then the Forester makes for a better buying decision. Also, what I noticed too immediately is that once I step inside, the seating position is a lot higher and also have a wider field of vision. I feel that 8.7 inches of ground clearance, and I feel like I'm really in a crossover like all the other vehicles I've featured and reviewed and also test driven. Now the Crosstrek, on the other hand, is very car-like, and you feel that immediately when you step inside. And I just think that if you are the type of person who's looking for a traditional SUV or crossover-like driving experience, the Forester makes more sense. Also, I chose a sport trim over the premium because of the multi-information display above the infotainment system. And with that, you're able to access a little more information, such as your eyesight driver assistance technologies, and also your interior climate control, outside weather, and there's just a lot more statistics that you just wouldn't find in the premium trim. And when it comes to layout and design, it actually looks more up to date and more modern than the premium trim. The premium trim seems more dated to me, and I've spent a lot of time with the Subaru lineup since the reopening of the local economy here in Massachusetts, and I've gotten to know these vehicles a lot better. And for me personally, I prefer having that extra screen just because I can scroll through more information and just access a lot more stuff that I wouldn't have in the premium. But I do think at the end of the day, if you're looking for a vehicle that's more practical, that can fit more people, go with the Forester. But if you're more the person that lives in an urban area, you live in urban lifestyles, just looking for practicality and good gas mileage, then the Crosstrek would make for the better decision at the end of the day. Also too, you do get leather seats at $31,000, whereas these are cloth seats. So definitely keep that in mind. But overall, I think either one, you can't go wrong with either purchasing decision. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you guys next time.